Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, and otherworldly and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitrealshow.com. Without further ado, welcome to this week's episode.
Hey homies, welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. This is Moni, one of your hosts for the evening. Excited to talk to you about some creepy monsters in Cloverfield. And we have our very special Barrett v. Barrett episode, but we'll get to that in just a second. First, I want to introduce our regular host, Miss Kristi. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing okay. I've had better days. I'm on keto diet, and I really want nachos, and it's been raining forever, and so I'm like a caged animal who really wants carbs. So I could be a zombie. Since I can only have meat, I'm basically a zombie, except I eat dead animals, so whatever. But yeah.
You have many problems. You are a zombie that doesn't even get brains.
I know, yeah. I'm sure I could figure it out, but I think I'll just stick to the hamburgers and bacon for now. But nachos sound really freaking good right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't
More
drink
like
either.
nachos.
So no drinking,
These are the sad
no carbs.
stories.
Yeah, I've got a smile on my face, but it is a little forced.
Well, when you're all thin and hot for summertime and we're not, then you can feel better about yourself.
And then I'm gonna pig out and then gain it all back.
Hey, that's the fun part, though. And this evening we have a very special episode with Mr. Moni Barrett. His real name, I guess, is Joe. How you doing?
I am good. How y'all doing?
You're hanging in.
All right.
What's up with you tonight? How's your day been?
Oh, my day has been fantastic, and apparently I'm here to hype a Barrett v. Barrett battle that's supposed to go on tonight, so I need to defend my reputation.
As Mr. Science Brain.
As the logical sort, since we don't have Yardley hanging on today, so I'm gonna fill in that aspect of the show tonight.
Yeah, he told me today that my thoughts are pretty. So we'll have to throw down pretty thoughts while he uses his science brain to talk about man things, I suppose.
Am I going to have to get my pull-out couch after this episode for you, Moni?
Yeah. He's going to the doghouse.
Yeah. It's a good thing I waterproofed that doghouse outside because I'm going to need it tonight.
Hell yeah. All right, so let's move on and talk about Cloverfield. By now, y'all have at least hopefully heard about the Cloverfield 3 premiere that came on right after the Super Bowl, Cloverfield Paradox. And let's talk a little bit about what we saw.
Yes.
Joe, why don't you go first since you were the one that threw this on here?
Well, it was kind of a great surprise. A lot of people had been anticipating the third Cloverfield to show up relatively soon, ever since kind of rumors started swirling. And about a month ago, rumors really picked up that it was about to air again, this third chapter in the story. And then the last thing anybody was anticipating was actually seeing a commercial during the Super Bowl, saying that it was going to be on very soon on Netflix. To which the second I saw that, I had to jump on Twitter to find out, well, what does very soon mean? And then lo and behold, everybody discovered, it means soon as the Super Bowl is over. Because, the Super Bowl wouldn't be doing a great job if they decided, hey, we're going to put it on at the same time and advertise it as well. So they held off on that part. But jumped into it. So basically, as soon as the trophy was handed over, I decided to flip it right on. So on that note, I thought that I've seen a lot of backlash, a lot of people not absolutely thrilled in regards to the film, but I actually thought it was fairly entertaining. It strikes as one of those kind of sci-fi and space movies that kind of just throw out pseudoscience and all that fun stuff to really kind of wrap your head around it while at the same time disguising some sort of horror flick. So in a way, it did the job. I think everybody was kind of anticipating a little more. I don't know if they were expecting it to, to be the end all be all for connecting it to the actual original Cloverfield film. And I think a lot of people are kind of hunting for that connection deep down inside. But regardless, they ended up doing quite a few Easter eggs that kind of connected the universes, not to mention the final shot of the film that really kind of synced it up. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Miss Kristi, what'd you think of that stuff?
I have to agree with you. I enjoyed the film. I think for me, all the Cloverfield movies they're not anything like the others. They're all different and they're all based in like almost totally different worlds. I mean, 10 Cloverfield Lane was completely, the entire movie was, you're in a bunker, and then the very end you see something, and it was just kind of, I enjoyed a little bit of the story, but I wasn't really thrilled with the fact that people like me that love the original are looking for more of that. We're looking for that movie was just packed with monsters and crazy shit and a whole, New York City destroyed. I mean, that was for me I just watched it the other day. I made Rick watch it, and he was less than thrilled because he doesn't like horror or really movies at all. So I was like, we're watching this, and he's in bed with the flu, so he can't escape. So I had him where I wanted him. And so I just really love the first one. It's one of my favorite found footage movies.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I liked this movie. I just want more of the original Cloverfield. I wish they had not tried to piece this in with Cloverfield. I wish they'd made it its own movie. And I love Chris O'Dowd. When I found out he was in it, he's like, I love him. He was hysterical in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And
using
with
the
his
arm.
he's like, that's my fucking arm. My arm wants to write something. It was funny. But I actually just read an article right before we started, and I was so happy I found it because there's a huge conspiracy theory going online. And I mean, I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory. It's easily proved that apparently when you sync the original Cloverfield and Cloverfield Paradox, they actually are tandem with each other. So the time that they're propelled, into the other dimension from, releasing the monsters, that's when the monsters show up in the original. So what they're saying is J.J. Abrams planned, like, these two movies to literally go side by side if you were to try to watch them together at the same time. Now, he's not saying that he did, but everybody swears that that's the thing, kind of like The Wall and watching Wizard of Oz or whatever that was. But it's, it's something that clearly fits in a lot of people's minds. So now it makes me want to go back and sync both of them together and watch it. So I didn't hate the movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was a great concept, but it wasn't the Cloverfield original with the monsters and stuff that I was kind of hoping for. But I honestly had no idea what the movie was about when I started it. No clue. I had not done any research or anything about it, so it was just a complete surprise to me. I'm like, wait, they're on a spaceship. And, okay, there's one gripe I had. The spaceship technology is clearly, like, generations ahead of us, or hundreds of years. And the original Cloverfield was clearly, like, a decade or two ago. I mean, it wasn't... that part of it didn't make sense to me, I mean, it was clearly New York City in our time, not hundreds of years or whenever this is happening in the future. So that's the one problem I had with it. You're trying to sync up two movies that one was clearly in one, in the now, and this one's clearly in the future. And for me, that part didn't make sense. But overall, I did enjoy the movie. Again, just not in a Cloverfield way.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. In the original Cloverfield, they're shooting everything on cheaper cell phones, and and kind of a little bit chintzier. But
Right.
if we are to believe the paradox bit and the multi-dimensional bit, there's very good chance that they both actually kind of exist in the same separate dimensions and just kind of cross over at some point too.
Possibly.
I mean, they said, things can get screwy with time and everything else along the line. So, I mean, it wouldn't be surprising if that's how they kind of retcon it and bring it back together. But
Right. I mean, it is J.J. Abrams, and we know how his mind works. So
that
there's
is
no
true.
telling. There's no telling what, in his head was happening. And
There
maybe
is no straight line in his head.
No. So it's a zigzag pattern around circle tornado. So that's possible. That's
Oh, I'm gonna tear this thing a Cloverfield
Uh-oh.
monster bite-size asshole.
Okay.
So yeah, the video actually on the bottom of the article that you shared, Kristi, has does the syncing up of the two parts where the monster first, or where the first boom, I guess, hits in the New York City party at the same time as the ship first has its first overload or whatever the hell even happened. I don't know.
Right.
It's like that movie, I agree, but like even more militantly that the new Paradox movie is that it's a good sci-fi movie. It's a fun film. I like Daniel Bruhl, who played Zemo in one of the Marvel films. I liked him a lot. He was the one who, like, one version of him was actually sabotaging them with his logs, but
Right.
the other version was not. And that chick in it, the blonde chick who ended up,
Elizabeth
yes,
Debicki.
Debicki,
Yes, I liked her. Yeah,
she
Jensen.
should have been Captain Marvel, by the way, instead of Brie Larson, because she has such a perfect Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers look. But I digress. But this movie just, you can't just make a movie and then throw a monster in at the very end and then slap the name Cloverfield on it just because you want more people to watch it. Like, I'm kind of getting tired of Easter eggs. Like, it was funnish to go run to the internets with every frickin' film that has come out in the last 10 years and have to be like, oh, I have to watch a clip show on the internet and find out, how this what things I missed, or I have to rewatch. I don't have fucking time to rewatch stuff. I'm a busy woman. Like, just show me
Throw
what
it
I
out there, the
first
simplistic
goddamn time
forms.
I watch it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was a good standalone film, but stop calling it Cloverfield,
No, well,
people.
the fun thing about Cloverfield is that Cloverfield from the get has been kind of an internet rumor film, and it's been the entire series. You never found out about the actual dates when these things are releasing until you actually go online. And fanboys, find these websites that are connected to it, and kind of bring the mythology and mythos all around it and kind of bring together a little bit more and a little bit more. And so I mean, the films themselves kind of have to be standalone on themselves, and that's fine. I mean, if you like the movie, you like the movie. But I think the real payoff inside the Cloverfield universe is the ones that are dedicating the extra time and doing the research online, doing the the rabbit holes that take you down to these different rando websites and kind of piecing it all together. I think that's kind of the fun part of it. And I think that's where you can really kind of enjoy it if you devote yourself to actually doing the research and finding all the the Easter egg sites and everything along those lines, and rewatching and picking up little hints here and there. I think that's where the payoff comes from.
Yeah.
That
I
takes
mean,
a lot of time.
I'm probably in the middle of you two, where I get Moni's opinion because honestly, I want the monsters. I don't want every movie after that to be the real monsters are humans. That whole like no, there's no real monsters. Everybody, the humans are the monsters. Like the 110 Cloverfield Lane. That was clearly the message. Was she had to get the hell out of that bunker because that dude was freaking crazy.
John
and then
Goodman
ends
was
up
out of his mind.
He was amazing. Oh God, I loved it. But I was like, really, this is all we get? Like, there's no monsters, and here we are again. I'm like, well, here we are, part 3 is that same concept with the bad guy, and but not really bad. It's kind of like you kind of understand why she did what she did, because she's in her world and wants what they have, and they're trying to save their own asses, and so it was but she's still a monster, quote unquote, killing people, and so again, we're faced with, here we are, where's the fucking monsters? I want to see monsters. I want to see those little bugs that when they bite you, you explode. I want to see that.
Yeah.
That's what I want. So,
we're out for blood.
Yeah, and so I get why they put it in Netflix. I think that there's a lot of people that enjoyed it, and there's a lot of people that didn't enjoy it. In fact, like I just read this review, it says, there's a reason they released this movie right when the whole country would be positively drunk. So apparently that was not a good review.
Yeah.
But I just think that it was a Netflix movie. It was at the right place. It shouldn't have been on the movie theaters. I think people would have been pissed because, like we talked about last time, it's like $40-$50 going to the damn movies these days. So if I paid $40 or $50 to see that versus $8 a month, I'd be pissed. So I get what they did. I enjoyed it for what it was. I want monsters, though. And if they do another one, bring me some damn monsters.
Well, there you go. So how do we feel about the 4th one that's coming?
Oh, God.
The rumored...
Is there really one coming? I didn't know that. I just said that.
Yeah. We're looking at a potentially Joss Whedon directed, but noted as Overlord is the rumored title. That's actually going to take place during World War II,
Oh, my
where
God.
What?
a group of U.S. soldiers go to fortify a location before Normandy, and when they get to said area, there have been scientific experiments going on by the Nazis and potential monsters right there.
Well, Kristi, we did talk about rumored projects for 2019, and that was an untitled World War II horror film by Joss Whedon, so that was
There it is. Yeah.
And then we'll just slap Cloverfield on it, because apparently even though it's Joss Whedon, it won't sell well enough unless you put Cloverfield on it.
I guess. There'll be some fucking monsters. I'll watch it if there's monsters. Who are you kidding? I'm going to watch it anyway. But my review won't be very nice if there's not monsters. I just want some just give me some monsters.
Give me
seriously.
some monsters.
What, is that too much to ask? You started it that way. Why we gotta see all this weird concept shit?
Yeah, we don't want your concepts. Keep your concepts to yourself.
I want your concepts.
Well,
then get a new movie. Create a new movie.
Get your own movie, Barrett.
Cloverfield is what it is. It's like we should keep it that way. It's like Final Destination. If they started getting funky with that, I'd be pissed because let's be honest, it's a no-brainer movie. It's literally just everybody dying in weird ways and the concept that you can't run from fate or death. And I like it that way. That's what I want.
Be like Fast and the Furious without cars.
I can't stand Fast and the Furious. But that's what I want. I want my shows to be my shows. And if you want to do new ones, let's do new ones. Maybe I'm just too set in my ways and I can't branch out. But like I said, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed the concept and I thought it was interesting, just not for Cloverfield. So
yeah, we want these damn kids to get off our lawn.
They could have completely cut her husband's complete story out and nobody would have known any different. That was so not necessary for the whole show. The pilot or her husband, when he's at home,
oh,
yeah. He's on her. I'm like, why? With the end of it, I just thought, why?
Because you're supposed to care about her, Kristi. Care so much.
I cared fine. They could have done her backstory on the ship. They didn't need him down on Earth doing random shit. That
had to have a Major Tom moment. Come on now.
Whatever. Anyway, yeah.
Joe's rolling his eyes at us. So
sorry, we'll move on from
FYI,
Cloverfield.
So
that's cool. You got to deal with him after this, not me. I'm cool with that.
I got to deal with him. He's gonna sleep outside. You're gonna deal with the dog. So we decided to talk about, we being me mostly. Let's just be honest here. It was supposed to be Joe's show to choose, but he's too slow for me. So I picked monsters like cryptozoology, and we watched a Destination Truth episode. And I was scrolling through stuff to watch that was semi-scientific and semi-sensationalized and entertaining and fun. And this one caught my eye because I'd never heard of the Nandi Beast, so that's one that we'll talk about too. But it actually, the beginning of the episode, the first half talks about Pompeii, and Pompeii was somewhere that Joe and I actually visited on a graduation trip in 2007. So it was kind of cool because if you could think of any place, when they talk about the possibility of hauntings occurring due to people dying suddenly and violently and in a confusing manner, and therefore the spirits are kind of trapped or stuck because they weren't expecting to die. The explosion of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, the volcano, and the subsequent complete obliteration of all of Pompeii is something that totally could leave the people that are immortalized there by what ash, I guess, is what they're made out of, what's left of them.
Yeah.
And that was really, really sad, but really interesting to actually physically visit there. Some notes about Pompeii that you don't always hear about, like in grade school, and you didn't hear about on Destination Truth, but we saw when we were there. A lot of phallic symbols, a lot of whorehouses.
Nice.
Yeah, they were really technologically advanced for the time. They had quite a civilization going, but a lot of it was based on whore trading and just having people come into the port, soldiers and whatnot. And so they had a really cool thing going until in an instant they did not. And it's really eerie and super duper sad to see the number of people, tons of moms. I know they saw this in the show, but what looks like adult figures, like parents curled around their children in death, and just animals, dogs. A dog in a cage was, immortalized, just dead there. I mean, just a lot of. So it just really caught my imagination, the thought of being able to get access to that overnight. Although in the beginning of the episode, what did you guys think about the Destination Truth team going into the Vesuvius to get some special rock? Like, did that seem like a feasible, good idea to y'all? Would you have done that?
Me, no, but I think they were just time filling. I thought that was kind of, which I was happy to watch this because I used to watch Destination Truth all the time. He's hysterical. Like even show, watching that, I was laughing out loud, and I had my headphones on and I was watching on my laptop right next to Rick, and so it was bugging the shit out of him that I was just like erupt into laughter. But it was, some of the stuff was really funny, but that part of it, I'm like, oh come on, now you're just like trying to fill some time. They probably went back and did that after the show instead of, he had to drop it down on there. But I thought that was kind of cheesy, and I'm, me, I believe anything, but I was like, come on, really? You're gonna go get a rock?
I don't know if you need to be making sacrifices to the volcano gods to conjure up the spirits of the dead.
Don't fuck around anymore in that area than it needs to be.
Yeah,
honestly.
That seemed a little excess.
Let me just make an observation that I personally didn't know because I'm clearly geographically challenged, is the city right next to Pompeii, which is right in between Pompeii and the freaking volcano.
Yes.
Why would you live there?
And the government too, like when we were traveling there, the tour guide, who was obviously from there, was talking about, the government offers like a stipend for anybody who wants to leave, but this is our home and it's not enough to make a living off of anyway, so we all stay. And it's just like, oh my freaking God, like I cannot.
And then he goes in there and it was smoking. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Certain volcanoes, look at Mount St. Helens. It's like apparently, and then you've got to look at Yellowstone, and so I think sometimes lightning does strike twice, and it's been a few thousand years here. Yeah. So when he went in there, he like looked around and it was like smoking everywhere. I'd have to pass on that.
Hey, babe, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know, Kristi, maybe do you know, is it like earthquakes where they can't really detect it, or would they have some idea if it was possibly going to erupt soon?
You'd have a concept. Geologically, any kind of known active volcano is constantly monitored by many different sources. So what they'll usually do is they'll search for any kind of mini earthquake kind of activity or any kind of increases in gases or anything along those lines that kind of emit from the volcano itself. So, I mean, there would be enough time to kind of to see something coming. It wouldn't, blow and while you're sleeping and you'd never have an idea about it. There'd be a good bit of warning in advance, and it's just kind of the way that geologists tend to study it now. It's a little easier to kind of keep an eye on this, whereas back then it's like, boy, the mountain sure does seem angry, doesn't it? But
The gods are angry with us today.
Yeah.
Let's sacrifice 20,000
Well,
people.
but
and
when
see if
it
that
blows
happens.
again, it'll be fast, like what it actually happens, right? Like the way that things take place.
it kind of depends, because there are generally two kinds of volcanoes. One that'll actually kind of be a slow eruption and kind of just go, and you do tend to get it's a little oozier, so to
Like
speak.
Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, like Hawaii. And then you have the explosive ones, which are kind of like Mount St. Helens or anything along those lines.
I feel like
Which
looking at the people that are dead in Pompeii. It sounds
Vesuvius
like
would
that.
definitely be an explosive
Explosive
type.
one.
Yeah,
That was an angry volcano.
yeah.
Yeah, I would think I mean, maybe they didn't even know what a volcano was. Maybe they didn't even know that is even humanly possible to happen, so they had no idea what was going on around them. But I always think of things like, what if there was an earthquake and the earthquake triggered a volcano? If you're around the
Yeah.
volcano site,
It's true.
and plus we're treating our planet like shit. So
Yeah.
who knows what could trigger that crap? We frack and drill and things are moving around and we're causing all kinds of shit. I lived in Oklahoma for 9 years and I never once experienced an earthquake, and now they have them constantly from fracking. So I just can't,
and they did take that rock out, so they probably pissed off the
Yeah.
volcano gods.
Now,
like
now
Kristi,
they really
so.
fucked up. But I gotta say that I would not feel warm and cozy living next to a volcano that also has a dead village next to it. Like, I wouldn't be like,
No.
this is great. This is my home. And I get to look at human remains.
Hey, but it is a dead village full of dick symbols, so you got that going for you.
That's true. Maybe that's the trade-off. I don't know. I just had to throw that out there. That I didn't know that about about that. And then when I watched the show, I was like, wow, there's a city or whatever right next to the freaking volcano. How crazy are you people? So anyway, let's move on.
The first half of the episode was that, and they stayed overnight, which is a cool concept in theory, but I felt a little weirded out about it. I don't know, maybe we should feel this way in any possibly haunted, like, location, but in that particular one, I just kind of was like, these people have been through enough. Let's let them have a night of peace when they're overrun by tourists all during the day. I don't know. I was just weirded out by it, but they didn't find any ghosts, even though they brought in the ghost hunters and did like a crossover show for no reason at all.
Well, they did have that one.
Well, someone was coughing, Kristi. Someone coughed.
Oh,
no, they had the heat signature video where it looked like there was a person like standing there and kind of walked to the side, and I don't know. They said that's
remember needs to get out of the way.
That's Class A evidence right there. That's what the ghost hunters said. But
Word.
I mean,
but then the second half of the episode, we went to Africa and spent the night in the middle of like the most dense forest in Kenya was it? To try to find a Nandi beast that supposedly eats the brains of human beings, because no bad can come of that. And experienced while running around in the dark a mama lion and her cubs, because that's something you want to mess with. And at the end of the episode, shall I blow the shocking conclusion for us?
The shocking.
Wait, not yet, because I have one more thing I want to say about Pompeii, just really quick. So no, that's okay. I have a theory about stuff like that happens like that. That's really quick and devastating. I think there's two different types of hauntings in that situation where people, dying really quickly and not knowing they're dead or having not moved on, who might show up, but then also like when there's something that catastrophic and that many people dying, like trapping energy. So it's not necessarily a ghost. It's energy trapped in that time and that place, and especially with rock and stuff like that, where you have an entire village of people dying and all that energy kind of being stuck there. And that residuals would happen where you would see what looks like a ghost, but it's really just kind of energy trapped, kind of replaying a moment or scenario over and over again, versus it actually like being a spirit. And that's kind of like what I think about Pompeii. I mean, maybe there are some ghosts hanging around there, but I think the main like activity of it is residual, just trapped energy, because we're all energy. When it gets sucked out, some of it stays, and so you replay shit over and over again. And that, again, that's just my theory, and that's kind of like what I thought about it after I read, because I did do a lot of research. And and I forgot about this link really quick I found. Apparently, like Hawaii, because we know this happens in Hawaii a lot because we go there quite a bit, is tourists who have stolen mementos from the ruined city of Pompeii are returning them in droves, claiming their lives have been cursed. So, like, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people are taking things from the site and then returning them and admitting that they've stolen them. We're talking stone statues, all kinds of stuff, parts of murals, and as kind of a remembrance, and then saying that literally ever since they went there and took that something really bad has happened in their lives, and that's how they've tracked it back. And so they turn around and then they return it. So I thought that was kind of funny that the government is super excited about that they believe this because they're getting all their pieces back. They don't want everybody taking stuff. But I just thought that was hysterical.
But didn't we see that on the Brady Bunch? Didn't Cousin Oliver steal an idol and then had to have it returned?
The tiki idol, yes. And that also goes in Hawaii for lava. Like, everybody wants to take lava from Hawaii, and they do. And apparently you will be cursed if you do. And tons of people send it back. Like, one of my sister-in-laws collects sand from all the beaches that she's gone to, but she will not take the sand from Hawaii. Like, she's like, hell no, I am not taking the Hawaiian sand. And they have green sand beaches, black sand beaches, pink sand beaches. They have all kinds of colors of sand, and so it'd be really cool to take it. She will not. So apparently it got to her, and she doesn't seem like somebody that would buy that. But I just thought it reminded me of Hawaii, because we've heard stories of people returning stuff, like lava rocks and stuff from Hawaii. So I thought that was kind of silly. But anyway, we can move on. Sorry, I had that link, and I just wanted to share it really quick.
So the Nandi bear, though, let me get into this. It's Kenya. It's Western Kenya. Takes its name from the Nandi people who live there, and it's an unconfirmed Nandi beast or Nandi bear animal living in Africa. And let's see, basically what the abominable snowman is to Asia, the sea serpent is to the oceans, is what the Nandi bear is to Africa. It's one of the most notorious of those legendary beasts, which has so far eluded capture and the collector's rifle. And I will tell you why that is the case, because spoiler alert, it's a freaking hyena. Okay?
That's the first thing I thought of.
Well, me too. I mean, it turned out to be a hyena that they saw on camera, like, in the perimeter. By the way, did you like the dramatic effect of leaving one person alone when they had an even amount of people and they could have, like, had someone with her? And then, they're like, hold on a second, and they left her alone again. And I was like, why are you people? Just so you can have the dramatic, like, oh, she's scared, run back and save her. Like, oh my God, seriously. But at any rate, and she's not alone, by the way. She's with a camera person. But
I'm like, well, who's got the camera? That's what I thought.
Nope, she's alone. She's
completely
filming herself
by myself.
in selfie mode without holding the camera. So she's magic. That's another trick.
When I first saw the picture, before they even began the research or anything, I'm like, that's a hyena.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
It looks like a hyena. It's got spots. Like, in the artist rendering, they look like just a scarier version of a hyena, which would scare the shit out of you if you saw that in the dark, to be fair, if you never had known of one. But at any rate, so I think So are we satisfied that that's busted, or do you think that Nandy bears might exist?
Well, I think it's completely busted. I do actually think it is a hyena, although I'm really curious as to why they keep saying it only eats human brains. I'd love to get an idea where they came up with that bit of it, because that is fun. I'm assuming that
Honestly,
there are a bunch of headless people sitting out in the wilderness
yeah.
that have just been getting
I'm
punched
like,
on.
I wanted to know the backstory behind that. I'm like, yeah, they say they. Can you elaborate? Like where and how? I want to hear more about this whole brain
That's gotta
again.
be those African tales, kind of like we tell, or like Grimm's fairy tales, the really scary
Yeah.
ones, where you tell your kids like you fuck around out in the African wilderness and you're gonna get eaten, your brains are gonna get eaten by a Nandy bear. Like
Yeah,
that's gotta
when
be
a
what it
lion
is.
can't scare you enough.
I know,
you
right?
figure.
Well, apparently, if
Yeah.
the lions leave you alone as long as you don't mess with their cubs, is what we got from that episode.
Or they're not hungry.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the Destination Truth episode in short, but I think we were going to have fun taking turns going around robin with some of the more notorious cryptozoological creatures that most of our listeners may have heard of. So, Kristi, it looks like you're up with Nessie.
Yes, and I'm going to be a rebel, and I haven't even opened my link for Nessie, but I just wanted to throw out really quick. I'll read the stats before I have my little theory, but in Scottish folklore, which I'm Scottish, the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, is an aquatic being which reputedly inhabits Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. It is similar to the supposed lake monsters in Scotland and elsewhere, and it is often described as being large in size, yeah, no shit, with a long neck and one or more humps protruding from the water. Popular interest and belief in the creature has varied since it was brought to worldwide attention in 1933. Evidence of its existence is anecdotal, with a few disputed photographs and sonar readings. So here's the thing. And it just, looking at your map, even furthered my theory on all this.
Okay.
So if you look at the possible, descriptions of Nessie, and you look at Chessie, and you look at Champ, and you look at Cassie, and you look at all the other freaking lake monsters, they all look exactly the same. I mean, except for a few little twitches here and there to make them look different because they're trying to describe individual monsters, so they don't want to make them all look the same. But we just talking about dimensions, so I just want to say my personal opinion, and I think, Moni, you and I have discussed this before, is on our planet there are doors, quote unquote, at times to other dimensions that can open up, or other times that can allow things to come in and out very, infrequently, not all the time, otherwise we would have busted something by now, but just long enough, and then they close. So that, to me, is all these lake monsters here, and all the lake monsters in every other country are the same type of animal, and they're just swimming. And apparently water is, can be very energy, it can hold a lot of energy. So that, I'm not saying I 100% believe it, but I'm saying I want to believe it, and I think that's my theory, is that it's not a monster per se, it's just a portal or another dimension where something's casually comes in and out every so often. So that's my theory. Come at me, Joe.
Joe Barrett is ready to come out. His eyeballs look like they're going to explode.
Oh,
I love
man.
it. Bring
Here we
it.
go. Need some popcorn.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It must be a blast at parties.
I'd love to know about these doorways and how they
Yes.
how
Be
they
nice.
actually work. 'Cause, I mean, God Almighty, if an Olympic swimmer was in a pool, I can't imagine how he'd end up in Scotland all of a sudden, or some sort of screwy thing along those lines. I think that's I think it's a theory. I can't
Yes.
debunk said theory, mostly because I'm not around any of those doorways. So I think it's as valid as everything else. But
I'm going to throw you
Yes.
through one of those doorways.
Hey, I didn't say it was the same monster. It says the same species, and in not a pool, but a body of natural water, it's possible.
Okay.
All I'm saying, I'm not
Well,
saying it's a fact.
I'm saying
And hey, you
this
should
animal
ask Stephen
is
Hawking because he agrees there are other dimensions and they are accessible. So
this
take
poor
it up with
animal
Hawking.
is the most unlucky animal that just keeps swimming in a lake and ends up halfway across the world over and over again.
It's not the same guy. It's a different, they're all different. They're just the same. It's like your brothers. If you had like 1,000 brothers in some other dimension and they're all hanging out in the water, and then, yeah, you just kind of casually swim. Oh, look, where am I? What the heck is this? Oh, I'm in a whole other world here. Isn't this great?
A whole new world.
I'm not saying it's just water people either. It could be the Yeti and the Bigfoot and all the other shit that's going on around here. I don't know. I mean, they think there's a freaking devil going around in New Jersey. You just don't know where this stuff's coming from. Maybe baby Jesus is opening up dimensions. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's my theory.
Okay.
So come at me.
I'm down with the theory. I think that's fantastic theory. I cannot debunk said theory. I can only go with what I know.
What do you believe it is? Do you think it's just a bunch of people making shit up, or do you think there might be something in there?
I would assume that in a small town in Scotland, when you go into financial stresses in the 30s, I figure you could probably do a little rigmarole and possibly bring up a little bit of tourism dollars to venture said direction, which, hey, good on them. That's a marketing ploy and a half right now that can keep bringing people over and over again. And I mean, we've heard the stories, that the guy came out and admitted that he falsified the photo and all that good stuff. That people have been dredging the lock for years upon years, searching for the thing, and you can't find it. And I mean, it's tough to believe that an animal, especially of the supposed size of Nessie, wouldn't be found. And not to mention, the first original sighting was supposedly back in 1933. That's a few years ago. I would have assumed somebody would have stumbled on that, or any kind of, I don't know, idea of a corpse or something along those lines. Because I mean, there's not enough natural predators in there to eat it, after it goes belly up. So I mean, unless this thing is impervious to everything and also can kind of walk over to the ocean when nobody's watching in the middle of the night, I just kind of have a tough time believing that he's around.
Well, guess what? 2017 was a record year for sightings of the Loch Ness Monster.
So while y'all were
the door
having
must be
this fishing
open.
contest, I was trying to formulate a theory that came in somewhere in between.
No.
Was
it's
logical.
Only red. It's only white or black, Moni. Come on.
It was my pretty thoughts. I was thinking about the fact that, yes, there does seem to be a huge amount of similarities between all these different sea creatures on this Monsters in America map. And of course, this is just America. This doesn't cover Scotland and the whole world. And we know that there has to be a whole species for something to exist on this planet. It can't just be one creature on its own. So it can't live forever by itself. That being said, what screws up my theory that maybe this is like a deep sea creature that we just haven't yet discovered, because there's lots and lots of things on this planet that we have not discovered, be it in the deep jungle or in the deep ocean.
True.
That being said, Loch Ness is predominantly, it's a mix of saltwater and freshwater, but it's mostly freshwater. And I'm confused as to how a creature that, a series of creatures could be both saltwater and freshwater. I don't know how that would work. I don't know much about different kinds of aquatic animals, but I feel like
sharks, there are sharks that are that way, but I don't know how many other ones.
There can be both. Okay, so that's one thought that I'm having, is that that's the only way, is if they can survive in both types of water, and we just haven't discovered them yet. So that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Gotcha. So you think they're here always, but we just haven't seen them. That's your theory?
Yeah, because they could be like
Yes.
deeper sea. Because the Loch Ness is pretty darn wide and deep, and yeah, he could have friends in other places. Y'all know, Joe Barrett. Y'all know.
He's got friends in low places.
In low places, like deep.
Real deep
runs
places.
deep.
Way
yo.
deep under the water.
Him and his friends run
So
deep.
deep. They hang down there. They're so deep that they hang out down there and discuss psychology and like drink
Poetry
coffee.
and
They're totally deep.
do their snaps. Yeah.
Got their berets on, vaping.
I would love to see a monster with a beret on. That's so cute.
And vaping, yeah. So here's my theory. So these humans up here, they're from other dimensions, I'm pretty sure. Because I don't see them that often.
Instead of moving on to the Yeti like he's supposed to, this MFer is trying to pull up a map to prove us wrong on some point. What do you want, science brain?
Sometimes you just gotta let us be.
15 miles from the ocean.
Okay, and?
Is Nessie going to like grab a cab and drive over to the ocean to
then
hop
he
out?
falls
Or...
into the other dimension and goes into the other.
What if there's a hole in a tunnel?
Yeah,
'Cause
y'all
water
know.
erodes.
They haven't
Water
reached the bottom.
erodes.
They haven't mapped the whole bottom of Loch Ness yet, and that's a true story.
They have mapped the entire bottom.
There's
Now,
really deep parts.
Let me tell you a little story
Uh-oh.
about how you think you've mapped something and then you haven't.
Yeah.
I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, and there's a lake called Bottomless Lakes there. The Indians named it that many moons ago. And every year at the end of school, we would all drive. It's like 20 miles away from Roswell. We would all drive there, and this was, in 92, and swim at Bottomless Lakes. Well, one time, somebody jumped in, because there's this huge cliff you jumped in, and he never surfaced from the water again. Nobody could find him. Nobody could find him in the water. Come to find out, there was a secret tunnel next to this cliff that went all the way to the Carlsbad Caverns. And he floated for like a month through this cavern and surfaced inside the new tunnels or the new caves of Carlsbad Caverns, like dead, clearly. So they had to go in there and put grates up over here. So you just don't know. You think you know shit under the water sometimes. New things appear. Things disappear. You just don't know. So that happened. That really fucking happened.
Yeah.
And so
don't know.
I can't say that there's not some crazy ass tunnel down there. I don't know. I mean, of course, you'd probably see some ocean life in there if there was. But hey, again, maybe it's really deep in the water and only Nessie can get in and out. Maybe he's got a door. Maybe he built like a house in there.
Yeah, y'all
We
know.
don't know.
He's got the key. He knows him.
All right, home
hosts-
slices.
He hosts little shark party dinners in there and stuff. So yes.
Somebody's gotta fly this plane here.
Who is it going to be? It's supposed to be Joe. Now, Joe,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be flying.
Talk about the
You're
Yeti,
our
Joe.
Yardley man. You're
Stop
our
yelling
Yardley
at
for
us.
tonight.
I'm supposed to be flying this rigmarole. Okay.
Which is really difficult to do with the two of us, so this is fun.
Well, I'm used to one. I'm not used to two. So.
You have two little girls that are just like
I'm
you.
like,
It's
take a
really
look
the
at your
same.
future.
All right. Well, advancing on then, I am supposed to discuss the Yeti.
Yes.
So most of us are familiar with the Yeti. I'll just do a quick rundown here. In the folklore of Nepal, the Yeti, or the abominable snowman, is an ape-like entity taller than the average human that is said to inhabit the Himalayan region of Nepal. The names Yeti or Mete are commonly used amongst the indigenous people to the region and are part of their history and mythology. The stories of the Yeti first emerged as a facet of Western popular culture back in the 19th century. So the Yeti kind of is a double whammy, because he kind of has his history both Eastern and Western. More commonly known as Bigfoot over on this side of the ocean. So basically what you're coming to think of is an ape-like man, potentially somewhere in the height range of 7 feet tall or so, with giant feet, giant hands, and for some reason has, never fully been photographed or caught by any kind of person or anything along those lines. So, my thoughts on Yeti slash Bigfoot are, I find it hard to believe that he's out there. Um, I I think this is one of those things where human populace has kind of forced this one a little harder to believe. I think originally, back in the 19th century or so, when land masses weren't as condensed as they are currently, it would, kind of be kind of that scare your kids to sleep story. But I think it's harder now to kind of back it up, mostly because it's kind of everybody's filling up the spaces, and eventually somebody would see that. Now the Himalayas make it a little bit harder, not because they aren't frequented that much, but there is camps set up along the Himalayas now, mostly due to hiking and all those. But again, that it just Sherpas may be able to say it, but I find it hard to believe that there's some sort of ape man living in the mountains, especially where there's little to no food resources up there as well. It just seems a bit far fetched on my aspect of this, but again, I'm also the tough one to convince, so I don't know where you guys are currently sitting on this one.
Miss Kristi?
Well, first of all, haven't you seen Harry and the Hendersons?
Yeah, I saw
mean,
him.
come on.
Oh.
All right, well, I will give you Harry. Harry is different.
Thank you. It was like my favorite show when I was a kid. Again, I have a, again, the next theory is the same. When you look at the map and you see Bigfoot, you see the Yeti, you see the Phffffff monster, you see Nabi, you see Momo, you see skunk ape, Mongolia monster, Honey Island swamp monster. They all look exactly the same. And for me, and I know this is going to make Joe's eyes literally roll all the way to Tijuana, but
I hope they get lost.
Where there's smoke, there's fire for me. Like, I get a couple of crazy people seeing something, or a village like what we saw. That's easily, debunked. I mean, no offense to those villagers, because I'm sure for them sometimes that shit's really real. But there is just so many sightings and so much, like every single picture on here is the same. Like, what, are there that many, like, crazy people or stupid? I mean, now, yes, there are that many stupid people out there, but I can't say that every single person that said they saw that in the entire planet is a liar or dumb. I just can't. Like, it's just my thing. Now, some of these, I'm like, okay, the Pope Lick monster that we were talking about before the show and laughing, that looks like basically a demon goat man. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look anything like anything else. I can totally be cool with that. And then the flathead leg monster looks like an alligator. So I don't know. I don't know where that's located at, but I would probably assume maybe something close to swamps. But the Bigfoot Yeti guy, he is all over the place. So maybe they're just really good at hiding themselves, and they take care of their own. So when they die, they're, destroyed, or I don't know. They throw them out somewhere for something to eat. They say things are extinct or don't exist all the time, and then they're like, whoopsie, yep, here it is, my bad, thought that was extinct 100 years ago, but here it is. So
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying I have a hard time telling people they're liars when there's so many. Like, that just, I can't say that they're lying. I don't know what they saw. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that there might be something like that out there. We don't have any apes or monkeys here. So whatever it is either like Paul Bunyan or, running around the whole planet, or the whole United States and Himalayas, or there's literally something to this. What do you think, Moni?
Yes. Just say yes to the Yeti, Joe Barrett, because he exists. And I'll tell you what else that Kristi didn't cover about him is that he's smart, okay? And if he could like accidentally be seen, just the way like that one time I accidentally came out of the shower and I didn't know my in-laws were over and there I was in a towel. But like that shit happens. But like if you really don't want to be seen, then you is careful and you smart and you like don't get seen very properly. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And he makes one hell of a cooler. So that's, I have like 1,000 Yeti cups and they make Great Lake cups. And so he's on to something.
And he takes care of the Hendersons, okay? And they take care of him. So he exists. And I'm going to move on because I'm super excited to talk about the Chupacabra because the Mexican little girl in me loves me some Chupa-frickin-cabra. And I'm obsessed with this. I don't know why. I think part of it, some versions of this, well, let me explain what it is first. So the Chupacabra is literally translated in Spanish as the goat sucker. And it's a legendary creature in folklore in parts of the Americas. With the first reported sightings in Puerto Rico, the name comes from the animal's habit of attacking and drinking the blood of livestock, most especially goats. And I have heard tell that often, like, especially down on their luck, coyotes that are sort of head down on the side of the road get mistaken for Chupacabra. But if you look at the sketch that's actually the rendering here on the side of this Wikipedia page, the way that's sitting upright, more in a man's upright sort of way, it's using hands to grab onto the livestock that it's eating. It has sort of a fish head and scales on the back, but it's got fur on its arms. That shit, it's got 3 toes. That is not a coyote, okay? If I saw something like that, I would shit twice and die. So, and I'm just going to say yes to this because it's been seen many parts of the world. It's the stuff of folklore. And let's see, eyewitness sightings have claimed in Puerto Rico that have since been reported as far north as Maine, as far south as Chile, and even been spotted outside the Americas in countries like Russia and the Philippines. But many of the reports have been disregarded as uncorroborated or lacking in evidence. Sightings in northern Mexico and southern America have been verified as candids affected by mange. Ooh. Oh,
that's what I was getting ready to say.
So
that's funny.
And I've seen that. Like I saw like a YouTube video where they were driving along this road in Mexico and they're like, there's a Chupacabra. And it was clearly like a coyote that was sick. That's what I meant by a down on their luck coyote. Not like Wiley down on his luck, but like a sick freaking creature. So according to biologists and wildlife management officials, the Chupacabra is an urban legend. Yeah, they would say that. So I'm going to go with he's real and he's a government conspiracy because looking at this rendering, he's the product of a government, what are they called? Experiment gone wrong. And they're covering it up because he got out. Okay, you guys can go next because I'm done on that.
All right, I'm going to let Joe go because I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this.
Yeah, Joe, go.
Joe, go. Joe, go, Joe.
Y'all ain't going to believe me.
What?
But I believe in the Chupacabra.
What?
No, you don't.
I do. Now.
What do you think it is then?
I'm going to rewind it. The artist rendering, side note, go to Wikipedia, check out this artist rendering.
We'll post it.
Yes.
You
can't unsee this.
Not going to believe what this thing looks like.
It's like
so basically a dog and a lizard and a snake and something else had sex, and a dinosaur.
Yeah, it looks
all had a gangbang.
Wild.
I would die if I saw this thing.
But I'm a little more inclined to believe that it's basically just a mangy coyote.
I knew it.
Yes, exactly. But it makes sense, you know. I mean, something does, feast on livestock, especially, in these kind of in the middle of nowhere kind of farmlands. In most likeliness, I would believe it to be some sort of canine that would be out there that would be doing this. So, but yeah, I mean, the Chupacabra strikes me as is a bit more realistic. The artist renderings way outside of the ballpark, but again, it's people just trying to make things a little scarier than they actually seem. I think, an ugly dog is still very fearsome and can actually still take down livestock, and regardless of, because it's not, friendly on the eyes doesn't mean it isn't less scary. I think the chupacabra is real. And I like believing in the chupacabra purely because anything that strikes me as out of the ordinary that I see along the side of the street or anything along those lines, yeah, I believe that's a chupacabra.
We spend a lot of time yelling "Chupacabra"
That
whenever
is
we
true.
see anything move. So we're city folk. We don't see enough livestock or like animals
Yeah.
moving around. So
Well, let me just tell you that I was born in Houston, Texas, right where kind of this vicinity is, and then I grew up in New Mexico, southern New Mexico. My dad literally has a joke chupacabra on his patio. It's like a dead animal on a stand.
what does it look like?
It's like pieces of different animals like sewn together. It's basically like a rabbit,
Nasty.
like a coyote with rabbit legs and horns, basically is what it is.
Nice.
And it's a joke. I mean, he didn't think, he would never think there's a chupacabra, but because I grew up down there, chupacabra is apparently real to a lot of people, but this is one of them that I thought it's a rabid, mangy coyote, which is scary. Like, it's got rabies, and it's probably is sucking the blood out of animals. I haven't heard of any, deaths of humans reported. They always, try to find, and they're always finding dead chupacabras. And then when you pull up all the images, it's clearly a dead dog or a coyote that's lost its hair. And yeah, their teeth look really scary when they don't have any skin or lips anymore. Yeah, that's just I gotta say that I am not 100% sold on a chupacabra. So I'm the skeptic on this one. I don't know. What's
you're
happening
both wrong
here?
because the most common description is a reptile-like creature. So y'all know what you're talking about.
But
Half
when you
reptile,
see,
half kangaroo. Yeah.
when you see the pictures of people who say they found a chupacabra, it's clearly a dead dog or a coyote.
Yes.
So I don't know where the misinformation has hit people where they think that it looks like that when this description is scaly with lizard stuff. So I'm not sure where the disconnect there became, but anytime you Google or look at news sites that are like, chupacabra found dead, and they post pictures, and I'm like, that's a dead dog, or they post pictures of one walking across the desert, it's clearly a sick dog or coyote with mange, like we said. So
That's
I'm
just
kinda
because
like,
the ones that look like reptiles are so fast that no one's ever gotten a photo or
So there's,
lived to tell about it.
There's two types of chupacabras. There's the dog version, and then there's the lizard version.
No, there's the dogs that are not actually chupacabras. There's just sick dogs, and then there's the reptile ones that kill people so they don't get a picture. Yeah.
I just don't think people really know what a chupacabra is, really. So they're confusing dead regular animals as a chupacabra. I'm still scrolling and I'm laughing my ass off. Every single real picture is a dead animal or a really sick animal. It's clearly not a chupacabra. So yeah, I don't know what I gotta say, I've never taken this one seriously at all. And everybody's got their monsters that they're interested in. That was just not one that ever really blipped on my radar, and I never really felt like any danger when I lived in South Texas. So I'm alive. I survived the chupacabra. Anyway.
Well, Missy, why don't you tell us about Mothman?
Ooh, I love me some Mothman. The Mothman. Hold on. See, I am pulling up my links. Oh, shit. I don't have one. Okay. So the Mothman is a monster-ish being, and they have him on the map as like way up north. 22 is... Wait, where's 22? I'm trying to find it. See,
I got your link too, homie, if you still need it.
It's not too far up north, I guess. It's near... That's West Virginia. Yeah, so it's like in West Virginia. Okay, no, that's not too bad. Mothman fascinates me, and the reason why is because he's one of the only monsters on this map that people believe have a purpose. Like, he shows up to warn us of danger. And I have watched so many like documentaries and just TV shows based on like real stories that just completely fascinate me. And I did watch the one with the bridge collapse, the Mothman prophecies. And I think that was the first time, it was years and years ago, that I had really officially heard of him. And then I began watching a lot of other stuff about him. And he's kind of a mangly looking guy. They have him drawn as like a Bigfoot with wings, but that is not at all like how I've seen people describe him. That was the map that I was just talking about. I don't really see that he really looked like that. He supposedly has really huge eyes, like an owl, but they're like reddish and they take up a huge part of his face.
Oh, I'm looking. That's creepy.
And he has huge eyes.
Ew.
And he apparently, when you see a huge cluster of sightings from him, disaster is going to strike. Or that's kind of what it is. There's a warning. And now, he kind of pops in and out throughout the ages. And the bridge collapse, gosh, now I have to go look that up.
Hold on. 1966. Bridge collapse, West Virginia, Clendenin, West Virginia.
Thank you. Yes.
That is a freaky fucking photo.
Yeah, that was the first real kind of, okay, all these sightings happened. This never had happened before. Nobody had ever seen this thing before. And then all of a sudden all these sightings happened and then the bridge collapsed.
Yeah.
And then it happened a couple of other times. Let me pull it up because I am all over on my tabs. But he's now being spotted quite a bit in Chicago, like over 40 sightings in the last year, which really is gearing up for something. I mean, that's what they believe. A lot of people are talking about it. They're telling their stories. And it's the same thing. Looks like a gothic gargoyle, large black bat-like being with glowing red eyes, which would be pretty freaking scary.
He is scary.
So, Joe, you ready for this?
Fire away.
Get your adult beverage. Okay, so to me, the Mothman could be some sort of... I'm not saying this is real. I'm saying if he exists, I look at him more as some kind of, like, not spiritual being, because I'm not really, like, super religious, but something here as almost like a protector. Not necessarily in the sense like Superman or something, but just a thing that shows up when it needs to kind of get people's attention. And, hopefully along the way, we figure out that when he shows up, there's something could happen. Of course, we don't know. So it's kind of like shooting targets in the dark, like what could it be? It could be anything. But that just seems to be the pattern. He's tied to at least 5 disasters. Sightings sightings happened for a little bit amount of time, and then a huge disaster happens. So, I don't know. I really am fascinated by him, though, because when you listen to people talk about the sightings, they are so just descriptive. I mean, a lot of times people are driving in cars, and they're driving down like a forest, street with a forest, and all of a sudden this thing appears in their window, and it's huge, and they and it's not an owl. I mean, it's like, 10 times the size of an owl. They kind of sometimes describe it as a pterodactyl type shape. And because I don't think your brain can quite put something, how do you describe something like that when you're trying to like compare it to something? But there are now in Chicago being rap songs created about the Mothman because there's been so many sightings. Now the rappers up in Chicago are creating music dedicated to him. So that's kind of my theory. I can't say for sure. I mean, I haven't really, it's kind of something I just pulled off the cuff. Like, I've always been fascinated with him, but I didn't have really a reason what he's doing. I don't categorize him with an animal swimming in the water or like an animal walking through a forest. He just doesn't seem like just an animal to me. That's really all I can say about it. So I totally believe in the Mothman. Let's just say that.
She's talking to you, homie. What you think?
I can't wait.
Oh,
Exciting.
Apparently I'm gonna be the skeptic.
Well, that's what you're here for. Yeah.
I truly wish that the Mothman Prophecies was a lot better of a movie.
Yeah.
I figured that probably would have been a lot more intriguing in this aspect of it. I don't know. I mean, truth be told, it strikes me as something that people tend to cling on to because they think they saw something, or when something terrible happens, you kind of piece together something backwards in your head where you're like, I swear I saw something along those lines. And so, I mean, God knows if people are starting to see it in Chicago, this only means that the Cubs are going to win another World Series or something along those lines, because they're not going to be able to handle that city. So that's pretty much the only thing that's going to happen to them, is it's going to end up destroying the city again. I don't know. I mean, truth be told, is I think that it is probably if people are actually legitimately seeing something, it's got to be something along the lines of a bird, and possibly something that I'll probably get into in the next topic of when we cover the Thunderbird. I kind of have a theory as to what maybe the Mothman and the Thunderbird are together. But yeah,
a pterodactyl going through dimensions. I knew it.
No.
Just kidding.
Well, now you blew up my theory here. Dang.
Sorry, I knew it. I'm so psychic, it's my psychicness.
It's almost like you have ESPN.
Yeah, I have ESPN. So good. It's the best.
No Mothman for me. Hard pass. I don't know. I feel like, well, for one thing, he's way too scary to be like an angel or something. He's scary as shit. I had never heard of him before. And like at first I was looking at the Wikipedia and they have this statue in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And I'm like, oh, he's so pretty. He looks like a butterfly. And then you actually Google further and no, that's not a butterfly. That's something that comes straight from hell. So unless he's actually
hurt his feelers.
Creepy. Yeah. He either is causing these bad things to happen because he's terrifying, or he doesn't exist because I don't want him to exist because he scares the shit out of me. So on that note, moving on, I'm going to go to Joe with, he wanted to do this one because it was called it was also commonly known as Big Bird.
Big Bird.
It's actually Thunderbird. So what's up with Thunderbird?
The Thunderbird, which is awesome. Mostly because it's kind of one that kind of stems from Native American folklore and along those lines. But basically, it's a large bird-like creature generally identified in the southwest of the U.S. Or along the lines of Mexico as well. People are saying that it looks like a giant pterodactyl or something along those lines with a wingspan of 18 feet long or something along those lines. And sightings have been, people have been seeing it for over 200 years, something like that, and maybe even longer, if it's stemming back to, Native American days or something along those lines. But my thought is fairly simple on this one. I tend to think that the Thunderbird itself is actually a condor, and people just kind of get the fish was this big when I caught it kind of syndrome. Everything looks bigger when you're actually thinking you're seeing it. In reality, it isn't 18 feet long in wingspan. Now, it may be long in wingspan. It may be a very big bird. Maybe not a yellow guy flying through the air, hanging around Sesame Street and sitting around with Snuffleupagus. But, I do think that it probably is a bird, and not with leathery wings, but probably with jet black wings, kind of like a condor, that kind of give off the appearance that it's a leather kind of look. But that's my theory, is that the Thunderbird itself is just a very large condor. And I kind of want to bring it back to Mothman too. I think Mothman could potentially be a condor as well. Maybe not one that's localized or familiar to the area that people are discussing, but if one happens to be floating by, a condor is an extremely large bird. We've seen them here in California, and specifically up where my family lives. We've seen them up there, and I kid you not, it is a big ass bird. It's enough that will catch your attention and scare the hell out of you when you see it. But something that's, kind of noted as picking up large animals and carrying them away or something along those lines, I'd find that hard to believe. I think it probably could potentially pick up, you could definitely pick up a dog and run away with it, but anything bigger than that, I think that's just kind of wives' tale. But that's where my head's at on the Thunderbird. Wife, do you have
Yeah, he's probably just a really big bird. Yeah, big bird. But I wouldn't want to leave a small dog or cat outside just in case. The rendering looks super cool, but it looks like the kind of logo you would use for like a Native American like tribe symbol or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, exists, but not in the form kind of like how a hyena exists, but it's not a Nandy bear. What do you think, Miss Kristi?
I gotta agree with you guys on this one. Yeah, I'm not overly convinced that's much of anything, but I mean, today I was going to pick up Madeline from her sleepover, and this is nothing like a condor, but I drove by two vultures like feasting on a carcass right next to the road. And those things are fucking big. I was like, holy crap, what the hell is that thing? And they were like pulling, circle of life, pulling meat off this, whatever it was, going to town. And they didn't care that my car, I like could have swerved just a tiny bit and hit them. They did not care. They were involved in their meal, and they don't have anything to do with anything else. So and I was blown away at how big they are up close. So I could totally see something like a condor getting down close. Like when you see it up in the air, it seems big, but maybe not that big. And then they get down close, and it's like, whoa. So I'm not saying I ain't gonna agreeing that the Mothman is a condor. No, that's way too far, Joe.
No, Mothman is condor.
No, if a condor, a man, and an owl had sex and gave birth to something, then maybe it's the Mothman. But
if Richard Gere went chasing him through the night, it would be the moth.
Yes,
I get it.
But yeah, I could totally see this one being just a bird, a big bird, but a big bird.
Big bird.
Sorry. Yeah.
And on that note, I think that's the end of our creatures for the evening. But Miss Kristi, you were going to, we wanted to talk about any other favorites that we haven't covered, or any other closing thoughts on the ones that we talked about?
No. I didn't even know any of these other ones existed, so this was an educational experience for me. I mean, not existed, but were plotted on a map to exist. So
My final thought is Chupacabra lives for life.
Mothman's the man. And I totally want Pookwooji to come see me. Call me. We'll have lunch. Let's have some.
No, I think that I think Monica kind of covered it earlier. You know,
Monica. Just kidding.
yeah, when I actually use her actual name. It's
Blown my cover, fucker.
I know. You know, the ocean is deep, and there's a lot to be found out there, and the rainforest is thick, and there's a lot to be found in there too. So, you know, I mean, there are actually some legit terrifying animals out there in the world. So I'm very curious as to what kind of wild creatures, you know, you can end up stumbling across. But
definitely not the Pope-lick monster. Is that what you're saying?
I'm hoping not the Pope-lick monster, because he looks terrifying to me.
I would not want to run into that guy at all.
But I do want to throw a quick shout out to actually what's a really cool kind of book that's out there. It's called The Resurrectionist, and it's the lost work of Dr. Spencer Black. And basically what it is it's kind of like an anatomy book, but of mythological creatures and such.
Oh,
And
cool.
it is absolutely fascinating, because he actually will do like a bone diagram and breakdown of how they actually look and everything. And it's twisted beyond belief, but it's also got the science feel to it as well. So it's, you know, it's 100% fiction, but also just extremely fascinating, as it kind of gives you an idea of if these creatures were actually real, how they would actually look and break down in their own anatomy. So I figured I'd get a plug on that.
When you say it's 100% fiction, was fiction in quotation marks?
Fiction-esque. Let's go with that. It's fiction.
We haven't proven that it's fiction. What? No. You never know. They could be out there.
It's
They could be
fiction
in
until
another dimension.
Fiction until proven otherwise.
Fair enough. Fine.
You people are crazy.
Joe is going to really miss out next week.
Yes, because we're talking about
I'm going to try to say this right. Atacama skeleton. And
I didn't
was
mean
it
to
an alien? Was it an alien, Joe? Was it?
Oh.
Is that an alien?
Oh. That well, we all know where I kind of lie on my skepticism.
That's a 6-inch man, and it has already been proven by scientists to have actually lived until possibly 8 years old. They're saying it was an extreme dwarfism. It was 6 inches long, though.
Well,
And
he
literally walked
measures
around-
at 6 inches, but he tells his friends he's 8.
Right, exactly. So
Wow.
Joe's
It's a
face
skull.
right now.
Wow.
Good night, folks.
Good night, everybody.
I have been dying to talk about this guy, like dying. So this is going to be a fun one. And I'll have a video put up too for us before the show, and I'll post it during the show. But I am so stoked to talk about this little guy. I am dying.
Nice.
So finally, and Joe, you're really going to miss out.
I really am.
You're going to listen, and your eyes are going to get frozen. They're just going to froze up into the top of your skull.
He's just going to yell at his phone while he's listening to the podcast later.
You guys are going to have to get me an optometrist to really help me out here.
Don't
Your
be
face
sending
is going
us
to
that,
freeze
though.
like that.
Exactly. Hey, girl, at least your dude listens to the podcast. My dude has absolutely zero interest. He's like, you look great on the little photo, but I'm just going to have to pass. I'm like, great. He'll go in and like it and download it, but he's like, I ain't listening to that.
Wow. Mine knows what's
If
good
it's-
for him and has a long enough drive, so he has no
If
excuse.
it's not about sports, or technology, he doesn't give a shit. So I totally respect that. I'm like, whatever. He didn't listen to my last podcast either, so I'm cool with it. It doesn't hurt. It used to hurt my feelings, but now I don't give a shit. Because honestly, like sometimes I don't want him to listen. Like last show,
Yeah.
like really. Or wait, was it last show?
2 shows ago, homie. 2 shows
Lord
ago.
have mercy. Yeah.
Infamous. I was gonna say is infamous. Is it infamous?
Is it?
A little awkward there. Thanks, keto diet. I can't like metabolize alcohol anymore. It's like, so this is a really long show, and I've had like 2 glasses of wine. Apparently, my body can't tolerate. But anyway, so yes, I'm super excited about next show. And I said excited again. Let's all drink.
And we're dead. Alrighty. And on that note, final goodbyes, Mr. Joe Barrett. Would you like to take us out?
Final goodbyes. It was a pleasure to be part of the show. I appreciate you guys giving me a forum to spout my skepticism all over the place. And I would gladly do this again.
Awesome.
Yeah. So come at me, bro.
Oh, we did, and we will.
It's coming.
It's gonna be more on like Donkey Kong after this. Who you calling him more on?
Oh, whatever. He was great. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a good sport, because I know me and Moni are kind of out there, and now you kind of have the feels for Yardley. Now you understand what he deals with every show, so you're like, I feel you, buddy. I just really quick want to ask everybody to either, if you listen to us through Podbean, to follow us and like our shows, and then if you listen to us via YouTube, to please give us a rating or follow us as well on there. And that's really what I want to. I mean, all my social medias are the damn same. So if you listen to the show, you know it's Creepin' Kristi and the Creepin' at Real Show across all media platforms. Creepin' Kristi is Instagram. That's it. That's all I got.
Nice. Yeah, find Rebel Moni on Twitter and Moni Bear on Instagram, and you guys have been finding me on Instagram for sure, so that's cool. And thank you both for hanging in this evening. I am super killer tired, so it's 9:30, y'all. It's past my bedtime, and so
it's 12:30 here.
I know,
so
you're
I don't
cray.
shit.
It is the next day over there. You're cray.
It is. And I have to babysit tomorrow, a 3-year-old, so...
Ugh, why would you do a thing like that? It's not even yours.
I'm a good friend.
Oh, that is nice. I'm getting rid of
I love
mine.
her.
I'm paying other people to watch mine, and it'll be great. So have a good week, creepers. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the other side.
Peace.